You know, when you see headlines about the ICE and Border Patrol Gestapo and how they're forcibly entering homes without warrants and illegally detaining thousands of individuals and bragging about shooting people and abducting families seeking emergency medical care for their child and sending toddlers to concentration camps where they're strangling people to death and killing disabled people by abducting their parents / full-time caregiver and not letting them attend the funeral, and even detaining people that just literally saved their lives, you might think to yourself, hey, these ICE and Border Patrol agents, they sure do seem like sadistic, sociopathic, terrorist fucks, but are they really as bad as the headlines make them out to be? And the answer to that question is an unequivocal yes, at least according to people that know them the best, their friends and family. And I say this because a couple of threads in the Ask Reddit subreddit popped up about this very subject. One where family members of ICE were asked about their thoughts about what the Gestapo is doing, and another where family members of the Gestapo were asked about their relationship with said Gestapo member. And let's just say that the families of these modern-day Nazis were more than willing to spill the tea. They described the ICE brown shirts that they know personally as unhinged, insufferable, and extremely hypocritical, since a lot of them come from immigrant communities themselves, or they married an immigrant. And if that wasn't bad enough, they genuinely seem to think that they're victims because of the social rejection that they're currently experiencing as a result of what they're doing. Before we dive into these threads, I do want to show you this pathetic Facebook post from a border agent where he says, "Some of the loudest critics of DHS on social media are people who grew up with me, shared classrooms with me, laughed with me. They know my heart. They know my character. Yet, now, because of the badge I wear and the job I do, I'm painted as the enemy. Funny how people can claim to, quote, know you until your mission doesn't match their politics. I'm the same guy you joked with, called when you needed something or had a drink with. I haven't changed. My commitment to protecting people hasn't changed. Only the narrative has." Oh, my heart truly breaks for this Nazi. Truly. Because now that people who know him are no longer ignorant about what he actually does for a living, which is to hunt human beings, he's becoming a bit of a pariah and an outcast in his social circles. This is truly so sad. Sir, listen, if you're watching, I know you're probably feeling a lot of really dark, unnerving thoughts right about now, and I just want to encourage you to definitely listen to those thoughts. Definitely listen to the voice in the back of your head that is telling you to do a certain thing right now. Please. For the sake of all of us. But that post, it just gives us a small glimpse into the victim mentality of some of the most evil fucking people in the world. But without further ado, I want to hear from how repugnant they are from their friends and family. So Reddit user Lokia asked, if you know an ICE agent personally, what's the relationship like now? And here's some of the responses that they got. Know a Border Patrol guy, he's European, English is his second language, married an American, moved back to France for free IVF, moved back to America, adopted 2 Chinese children, joined the Border Patrol, hates all immigrants openly, does not see the irony, tells stories about getting his dog to falsely alert on people who he thinks aren't respectful enough. Real piece of work. I'm not in the US, but a friend moved there illegally, overstayed visa, in November of 2024. She's dating a guy that works for ICE, and neither of them sees how nonsensical that is because she doesn't look/act like a criminal. Guy is a full-blown white nationalist, and his social media posts are vile. Last time I spoke to her was around July. I asked her how she was okay with all of this being illegal herself, and she said she didn't care because they're cleaning up the country. Actual cognitive dissonance, I'll say. This guy that used to run in one of my friend groups from college always said he wanted to work in any federal law enforcement agency. He got rejected from the FBI and DEA. The guy was always a bit of a dumbass, so that didn't surprise me. I never liked him much, so I rarely saw him outside of group hangouts. Well, turns out he finally got his wish to join the feds because he signed up for ICE through their recent recruitment drive. But the thing is, our friend group is all Latino and mostly first or second generation at that. He got kicked out of our friend group chat and isn't invited to any group functions. Multiple people told him directly they never wanted to hear from him again. Since we're all years past college, we're pretty busy but make the time for 2 or 3 big reunions a year so everyone can see each other. The friends in the group who normally plans these for us told him he was not invited for being an asshole who will terrorize his own community for money. Last I heard of him, his girlfriend, also Latina, broke up with him and he just hangs out with his coworkers now. No one from our college group will talk to him anymore. Aw, poor thing. My second cousin is an ICE ICE agent. He failed the NYPD psych eval 3 times, if that tells you anything about his character or intelligence. We never really had a relationship, but we definitely won't now. I have a cousin who's ICE. He seems to be angry at everyone. Lots of "you don't understand the horrors I've seen" and "be grateful of your ignorance" type messages. He thinks he lives in reality and everyone else is blinded by propaganda and ignorance. That's ironic. My wife's ex-husband married one. She's ironically an immigrant herself and truly the cruelest, pettiest monster I've come across in my life. And this person goes on to explain how she made his life a living hell. We're not going to get into all of that, but like, just these people are terrible. My brother-in-law is a Border Patrol agent who now works in the office. We always thought he was a giant asshole. Now we really think he's a giant asshole. The only people who love him are his brainwashed wife and his, quote, Christian family. Oh, by the way, he's Mexican and his grandparents are immigrants. Let that sink in. He has special training coming up. He disappears for weeks on end to other states. I imagine he's just going to be an asshole behind a mask on the news soon. Edit. Turns out I was right. He's currently protecting the ICE building in Minneapolis. Wow, I should play the lotto. My uncle by marriage became an ICE agent, which was really surprising. He's bilingual and he and his parents came here from Mexico in the 80s when he was a kid. He's apparently really on the everybody should do it legally train. That's interesting since they're just going after people who are doing it legally. Anyways, this person says, as far as our relationship goes, I don't really actually talk to him much. She and my aunt live out of state and we've never really been close. My ex is now an ICE agent, huge piece of shit in his personal life, so I would expect him to be one in his professional life as well. He was a fat piece of shit in middle school, a fat piece of shit in high school, and a fat piece of shit cop, and now he's a fat piece of shit ICE, quote, agent. My nephew is ICE. Got in a fight over the weekend with my family because I voiced opposition to ICE. He was nice as a kid and shy, never started problems. I'm honestly shocked he joined ICE. Guess people change. A buddy of mine from high school signed. He was always a huge piece of shit. Guy from high school became one this month and literally arrested his no-status wife and had her deported. Jesus Christ. Friend's boyfriend. Known him 9 years. When I first met him, he was an okay dude. Typical veteran who enjoyed guns and ranted about the government. Nothing too extreme. During COVID, he got deep into red pill content. Started saying racist and homophobic shit he had never said before. Talking about needing to be an alpha and head of the household and other shit. He paid $2,000 for a multi-level marketing scheme for reselling military gear and of course, never saw a dime back. He did 6 months working at Border Patrol a couple of years ago. He has actively tried to join ICE, but my friend refuses to move to Texas so he can do it. And before you ask, she won't leave him because she's convinced she financially can't afford to. We've tried many times to show her she actually could and have offered to help her move, but she won't do it. My younger brother joined for the money. I don't speak to him now. It's heartbreaking and will most certainly create a larger wedge throughout our greater family as people slowly start choosing sides. His indifference and greed are cancer destroying a family. Fuck ICE. My cousin joined ICE. We no longer speak and likely will never speak again. We are both first-generation Mexican immigrants. Our fathers put us through school, picking crops with no legal status. Last thing I told him was that if he was willing to sell out his morality for $50,000, he may as well just start sucking dicks, probably more lucrative, and more moral too, might I add. My brother became an ICE agent for the money because he has no skills, a big ego, and 4 kids he never planned on. I haven't spoken to him in over 2 years. I was already excommunicated by the rest of the family because I wasn't Christian enough. I'm sure ICE will turn on him the moment they run a DNA test and find out we're mostly Mayan and Ashkenazi Jew. I keep a spare room open in case any of his kids ever need to get away. Fuck ICE. Now keep in mind that this is just a small sample of the hundreds of responses that came in, but I did notice some common themes after reading through a lot of this thread. One was that a lot of the people said that the ICE agents they knew were egotistical, and a lot of them became radicalized politically at some point. They're also very, very oblivious to their own hypocrisy in many cases. And a lot of them were just huge pieces of shits in general who originally wanted to be cops but failed. So that's kind of funny. I will admit I did sense a little bit of naivete from some of the posters who tried to rationalize what their ICE family members were doing. You saw some of that, but there were others who were saying something like, well, you know, they have kids and they need the money, so they don't want to do it, but they have to. And to that, I just have to point out that is no fucking excuse. You don't get to commit terrorism because you are impoverished. Destroying families to support your own family doesn't make you a family man or a family woman. It makes you a sociopath. Your family is not more important than the families that you're harming. Those families that you're harming have the same dreams for their family that you have for yours. They also feel pain, much like your family. But, I mean, I don't know why I'm wasting my breath because you can't expect sociopaths to feel empathy. And regardless of the pretty little lies that they tell themselves, money will never, ever be a good reason to be a terrorist terrible fucking person. But on that note, some ICE agents are actually voicing frustration because they're not actually getting paid as well as they expected for their terrorism. But I do want to circle back to the different Reddit thread that I brought up before we talk about that, because money is going to come up again in this different thread where user Aggressive Honey asks, family members of ICE, what are your thoughts and feelings about what ICE are doing? And here's some responses. Had a friend who, after he graduated, joined ICE. He never struck me as a MAGA or some right-wing extremist, so I talked to him about it. He said the money was the biggest factor. He didn't go through any training that was mandatory, and since I'm working in mental health, dude came over to my home just so he can practice de-escalation. So I taught him de-escalation and painless soft restraints. Last time I heard from him, he said he was going to try and get a different job as he couldn't handle all the screaming and the shouting. Okay, that's good to know. It works, right? Honestly, I was just shocked he wasn't trained at all. He didn't even know basic restraining techniques. Okay, but they go on. Yeah, so that's a sign that bullying works in some cases. A cousin of mine who is British but lives in the States announced the other month that he was considering joining ICE. My grandmother, a woman that lived in the UK illegally for 60 years before getting citizenship, and his own mother let it be known that if he ever returns to the UK, he will not be welcomed by the family because of the shame he has brought with his ridiculous right-wing views. His own brothers have also warned him not to return to the UK. This is a badass family. My closeted racist cousin's husband joined and dropped the news at Christmas. It went over like a lead balloon. He's an ex-PA state trooper who foolishly quit to open a brewery, failed, and a restaurant, failing. He's also a degenerate gambler who likely has large gambling debts. He signed up because of the $50,000 bonus and overtime opportunities. Figured he can make $150 to $200K this year. Never mind, he has to relocate to Michigan and is leaving my cousin to close down the restaurant, sell their home, and wrap up her nursing career at the local hospital. Her parents completely disapprove, and this is both their second marriages, doing whatever it takes to make it work, but going right over the cliff in the process with him. It makes me sad because she's attractive and always has had a good career and work ethic, just married two guys who are incredibly poor husbands. I'm always reminded that when my sister tried to join ICE, she was deemed unfit during the psych evaluation for being too empathetic but passed all the physical qualifications. That was in the early 2000s when it was just forming. That tells you all you need to know about how much of a psychopath you need to be accepted. This is especially true when you realize they lowered the standards under Trump because they couldn't get enough qualified people to join. Holy shit. I have a cousin who is trying to get a job with ICE. He's very low IQ and very loud politically, so I'm not surprised. I have zero desire to ever interact with him. My brother, he went nuts one time when I posted a definition of fascism on Facebook. I didn't tag him, didn't include him in any way. He just saw the definition and took it personally. Later, when I was expressing concerns about my wife, who was an immigrant, he physically attacked me. That's the kind of person they're recruiting. My older brother, who is technically a white nationalist, is a Mexican boy from San Diego who believes over half the people around him are leeches and illegals, and that by putting them where they belong will suddenly make him more successful. He was kicked out of police academy for something I was never told, but he swears that it was some black guy with a vendetta. Oh, I'm sure. He just recently joined ICE, but he got arrested for drug charges last week, LOL. Meanwhile, my sister gets detained by ICE for a couple hours visiting her BF, and he victim blames her, saying she dresses gay and weird, so she's an obvious suspect. Needless to say, ICE is where dumb, hateful cucks go to feel important. Great point. My brother joined ICE a few years back and got fully sucked into MAGA propaganda. He constantly shares invasion at the border memes and talks about saving America. He used to be chill, but now he justifies separating families. I've called him out on the fascism, dehumanizing people as threats, no due process. He just says I'm brainwashed by the left. One of my cousins, I'll call him Jay, joined last summer. He's got some incel vibes, but didn't seem very conservative, so it was a surprise to me. When he posted about it on Facebook, most of the family expressed disappointment. He decided to double down on it and made some pretty insulting comments to family members and started posting dumb Trump memes and tagging us in them. They mostly blocked him on social media. Jay was not invited to Thanksgiving or our family Christmas party. When he saw photos of the Christmas party on Instagram, he started texting us and begging to be included again. Nobody responded except my aunt, not his mother, responded with screenshots of the terrible things he said. Last week, Jay quit because he was worried about getting hurt. Now he's texting me asking if he thinks thinks people will welcome him back now that he quit. He doesn't seem to understand that the damage is done. One of my other cousins joined the Navy a few years ago, and the family was really supportive and proud, and I honestly think that Jay expected a similar response, and now he's in a really shitty emotional state because the family essentially kicked him out. I feel bad, but he's also been such an asshole about the whole thing that it's tough to have much sympathy. My advice would be to show him as much sympathy as he showed to the immigrants that he terrorized. There's more. My brother works for ICE. I am pissed at him and generally don't talk to him. He started going full MAGA just before joining ICE and completely drinks the Kool-Aid now. He dropped out of college, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I mean, that's not an indicator of being a terrorist, but whatever. He lives in another state, so I don't have to associate with him. He talks to my other family members about how all immigrants are rapists, murderers, and drug dealers, and he thinks he's doing God's work. He refuses to see that Jesus actually taught us to love our neighbor, i.e. immigrants. I have a second cousin in CBP that I spent a lot of time with as a kid. He was a bully as a kid. He's still a bully 35 years later. I have a friend whose 2 grandsons joined. She is disgusted and sad. She tried to speak with them about the dangers of ICE, but they were very gung-ho and especially excited about the financial rewards. They and their parents all quit speaking to her because they knew she was against them joining, so she has no idea where they are or what they are doing. She is quite worried as well as angry and fears hearing their names or seeing them on the news. It is dreadful. My sister-in-law just joined, who I do love very much. It's heartbreaking for me in a way I can't describe. She lives in Kansas and is a college grad but couldn't find work anywhere and is excited for benefits. I told her that once she works for ICE, she'll never find work ever again. Once the dust settles, this is basically the Scarlet A. Yeah, and I feel like that last point is crucial because if you're desperate enough to think that joining the Gestapo is the only way you can support your family, you're going to eventually leave your family out to dry one day in the event we ever have new Nuremberg tribunals because I was just following orders is not going to be a sufficient legal defense. The Nazis found that out the hard way. And I can't speak to all families, but I'm sure that most normal families would prefer that you find a normal job, even if it's in fast food or retail. Those are perfectly reasonable jobs that you're not too good to do, right? Because that's better than the Gestapo, where you're going to commit crimes that you may one day be punished for. But I mean, it really is satisfying to know that all of these brown shirts who are signing up for money because they think they're going to get rich deporting immigrants, well, they're getting the same treatment that Trump gives to all of the sad sacks of shit that sign up to do grunt work for him, because the Daily Dot reports that ICE agents are now whining about getting stiffed in their now private subreddit. One said that they've been working for 4 weeks without pay. Another talked about how they still haven't gotten any health insurance even though they've worked for 2 months. So sad. In a thread where one Nazi asked if the other Nazis received their bonuses, one complained that they did, but it wasn't enough. Another said that they still didn't even have their base pay that they were expecting. And financial complaints aside, in a thread about a hotel canceling a reservation for ICE, one brown shirt reminded new agency hires, quote, "We are not respected or liked in many places. Be discreet and careful with information you share. OPSEC is for everyone at all times. Don't forget about the people who hate you for your career. They certainly won't be forgetting you." I mean, yeah, that sounds pretty tough. Might I recommend getting a real job, fellas? Have you thought about doing that? Because being a member of the modern day SS Gestapo, that's not a career. It's a moral failing that'll render you a societal pariah for the rest of your fucking life. And I mean that. Like, even if you one day come to your senses and reverse course and apologize, no amount of "I'm sorries" are going to undo the damage that you caused to countless lives. An apology isn't going to erase the perpetual trauma that millions of people are going to experience because of you and your ilk. Like, there is truly no coming back from this, just like there was no coming back for the Nazis after World War II ended, hence why a lot of them fucking killed themselves, because they couldn't live with the guilt and the ridicule for the crimes against humanity that they committed. Even if they felt nothing for their victims, a lot of them still couldn't reintegrate back into society due to the scorn and ridicule that they felt from their friends and family. And even though you're all covering your faces like pussies to insulate yourselves from eventual prosecution, that's not going to change the fact that your fate has already been sealed. It's too late for you. For the rest of your lives, you're going to live with the thought of rejection from every single new person that you meet. You're going to catastrophize about the day that they found out about your time with ICE or the Border Patrol Gestapo. And no matter how gently you break it to them, they will never accept you. Telling people you're an ICE agent will be as shocking to them as if you told them you were a literal Hitlerian Nazi or a fucking pedophile. The toxicity of that label will never, ever dissipate. I can assure you of that, because the descriptions of the crimes that you've committed will be burned into the minds of every American who learned about the atrocities you carried out in future history books. Now, having said all of that, I do appreciate the people who know them that candidly shared their experiences about these thugs and confirmed what we already suspected about them. They're unintelligent, irredeemable pieces of shit who make the world a worse place. Like, not surprising, but it's nice to read about that and, feel validated. Didn't really need the confirmation from their friends and family, but, if you didn't know, now you do.
When you acting like a beta,
Call you the P word.
beta girl. Alpha male, not a beta male.